Well, welcome back, folks. We're going to begin now to prepare to install the swing arm and rear wheel into the little Yamaha YL1. And in order to do that, there's a few things we need to tend to first. There's two things I'm going to talk about here right now. One is the rear brake light switch. That's what you see here. That mounts to the swing arm. That's a little bit different design. Honestly, haven't seen this style before, but I believe the way it works, is there's a, obviously here's the wiring, which is in very rough shape. That connects up into the wiring harness, and I believe there is supposed to be a spring that fits into this little hole right here. This one did not have, as I recall, the spring, and I couldn't find it. The spring in my photos I took when I broke the project down. So I think that spring was missing, but there's, I think, a spring that goes between this arm and the rear brake pedal, and it's actuated something like this or like this. In some form, that spring pulls on that arm, and as you push down on the pedal, probably the way this works is it pulls it to a ground, completes the circuit, and lights the brake light filament in the tail lamp. Before I go ahead and clean this up, it had to be cleaned up and replated. Certainly you can see the finish is in very poor shape. These brake light switches that mount to the rear brake pedal lead a hard life. They're right down in the moisture and the dirt and the grit, and you can see this one has a lot of hard life, plus being well over 50 years old. So before I go ahead and put any time into cleaning this up and trying to make it presentable versus replacing it, I'm going to check to see if the switches work. I thought we'd review the wiring real quick for the stoplight switch. You can see this, by the way, is an original Yamaha repair manual for this project, for this motorcycle. It's nice that they have a color diagram, and you can see where my finger is pointing is the stoplight switch. It mounts to the swing arm. There should be two wires, a brown and a yellow, which this switch does have, brown and yellow. The brown is called the common, otherwise known as ground or earth, and the yellow brings the feed in from the other, from the tail lamp here. Since this is a DC direct current system, polarity is not important here. So what we're going to do is I'm going to test this switch to see if it's still functional. And if it isn't, then I'm going to have to go see if I can find a replacement. I am very confident Yamaha does not supply this part anymore. And if I have to replace it, I'm going to have to figure out another way to do that, probably via eBay. The test is really real simple. I'm just going to check for continuity, and I'm not going to use the wires. They've been cut off anyway. I'm going to use the terminal post right here, and I did quickly wire brush them a little bit just to get any of the dirt or contamination off them so I can get a good contact with my meter. So I'm going to work right off of the posts. Again, being a direct current system, polarity is not important. So what I'm going to do is just take my multimeter, and I'm going to connect the black or the negative, the ground, to the brown wire here, like that. And turn my multimeter here to ohms, because I'm going to check for continuity. If you can get a little bit better look at that. There's off, and there's ohms. Now if I ground these two probes together, you will see this switch from 0.L to all zeros, which means it's a dead short. So watch. See that? It's a dead short. That's essentially the behavior I'm going to be looking for here. So I'm going to take the other probe, I'm going to touch it to the other connector here on the switch, like that. And I'm going to actuate the switch and see if we get any activity on the meter at all. That feels, the way that switch action is working, that feels like the way it's supposed to be actuated. And as you can see, there's nothing. Going the other way, there's no activity either, I don't think. See? So that suggests to me that the switch is defective. Again, I can check it. It goes to a dead short. I can check it here. It goes to a dead short. I put it here, and this is clean right here. I get nothing out of it. No matter how I move this switch, I'm pretty confident this is the way it's supposed to go, like that. There's nothing. Therefore, I'm not going to put any more time into this switch. It'll just go into be transferred into the other bin that I use. I keep two bins going, one with parts to be worked on, the other bin is for parts that are taken out of service, replaced, or whatever. Now I'm going to go out on eBay and see if I can find a replacement switch. Let's talk about swing arm pivots a little bit. I do have two swing arms for this bike. If you recall, way back when, I had talked about I had to weld up or make one good one from two defective swing arms. So I ended up with two swing arm pivots. I believe this is the original one right here with the original nut. This nut, I did look up, is not available any longer. This is the one that came with the second sacrificial swing arm that I had used to fix the original. I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the original, and I think I can salvage it. The head is not in bad shape at all. It's got a few marks on it. You can see there. I think between checking up in my drill press and cleaning this crown up a little bit, polishing it, a little bit of the judicious filing, I think I can make that look pretty good again. And then I'll replate it and polish it, and I think it'll be quite serviceable. Same thing for the nut. I think the nut is going to be okay. It's not really battle scarred to speak of, but it's got a little bit of battle scar, but it's mostly rusty. And I think I'm going to take a stab at repairing this as well. Cleaning it up, filing it carefully, and replating it. And if that doesn't work, I do have this other one, but this nut's in worse shape than the original. In fact, this looks like it's almost got a chrome finish. These look like, almost look like different nuts, but they're not. This one looks chrome. This one I don't think was. I don't believe this was chromed originally, but nonetheless, we'll see what I can do to salvage this swing arm pivot and the nut that goes with it before we go ahead and start assembly of the rear swing. Well, I've got the end or the head of the swing arm pivot filed a bit. I cleaned up some of the rough spots that had been caused by tools over the years. So now I'm going to go ahead and chuck it up in my little lathe. I'm going to start with 400 grit sandpaper. Might have to go a little coarser, I'm not sure to start. We'll see how this turns out and how much work it is. You'll notice on the jaws of the chuck, I've got these copper jaw protectors. They're really designed not so much to protect the jaws, but to protect the part. This is just a piece of 1-inch copper tubing that I cut off, sliced off into 3 sections, and they simply fit over the jaws like that. And they will help prevent marring of the item that's being worked on at the time. So we'll go ahead and get this chucked up. My chuck needs cleaning. It's a little bit, gets a little tight sometimes. So again, my intention here is to work on the polishing up the head, the convex surface here on the lathe. All right, I think we've about finished here. We're trying to get this polished up. I did end up going down to 150 grit and working my way back up. This I ended up finishing with 400. And it doesn't look too bad. There's one little divot right there that I can't quite get out. Well, I can get it out, but I have to go much deeper. And I don't think I'm going to do that. And I think that looks pretty good. So might do a little more touch-up work on the flats with a file. And then I'll end up replating. I'm probably going to plate the end here and the end here. I'm not going to do, I don't think, the middle. The plating actually is okay. The only reason I'm going to plate it is to brighten up the color, bring the brightness up just a little bit. That needs to be cleaned a little bit further around the threads. But so I'll clean it, soak it in a rust remover solution. I tend to use Evaporust, but there's a couple other brands as well. They're non-acidic. They're great products, by the way. And then we'll plate this up. Continue on with the assembly of the Yamaha YL1 project, working our way towards the swing arm and the rear wheel. A couple other miscellaneous assembly things I'm going to take care of. I'm going to put the handlebar clamps on the top of the triple tree, and we're going to go ahead and attach the retracting spring mechanism for the center stand and get those items out of the way. Here's one of the handlebar clamps. I did polish these on my polishing wheel. That is the clamp itself. The hardware, the nut is original, and the clamps themselves are original. The washers are new from Yamaha, as well as the hold-down bolts here on the top. Now these hold-down bolts, though they are functionally equivalent to the originals, they're not the same original type of bolt. Again, these are new also. The originals, I believe, had a little bit of a crown to them. I have to go through the parts to make sure. I remember them being in very rough shape. I think they were rusty and beat up. That's why I bought new ones. And again, these have a depression in the top. The heads have been struck when they were made. So these will work long term. I'm probably going to try to find replacement original types to replace these with. But for now, they'll be functional to get on with the assembly. So let's get in a little closer and I'll show you how I'm going to put this together. This is a very simple assembly. You have the nut. Again, that's original. It's in very good shape. Just cleaned it up. Two washers, a lock washer and a flat washer. And then this next item is an interesting piece. This is a piece of brass, and it came off the bike when I took it apart. And I believe it is used for a ground strap. It's not shown in any of the Yamaha parts diagrams. I looked at both the diagram for this assembly here, where I could find all these other components. I could not find this in that assembly diagram, so I went to the optional parts diagram, which shows the flasher units. And it's not shown or depicted there either. So I haven't found in diagrams where this part is used, but I am very confident it's original. And again, I think it's for a ground strap, most likely, where for part of the electrical system, a bare wire would be brought into that loop right there at the end, and it would be clamped to provide an earth or a ground for part of the electrical system. It didn't have a wire attached to it when I got it, but I'm not surprised because this bike does not have flashers or blinkers on it. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and start putting this together. You notice on the clamp that there's a relief cut on one side of it. You can see it right here, but not on the other. That goes to the inside. It came apart that way when I took the bike apart, as shown in my drawings or my photos, and it's shown that way on the Yamaha parts diagrams. This clamp, this little piece of brass plate here, originally came off the bottom of the triple tree, so that's how I'm going to put it back on. And it makes sense because then it wouldn't be visible. Not a lot to it. You simply take this threaded portion and fit it through the hole. There's two holes here. I am going to put a little anti-seize on those threads first before I go ahead and put the hardware on it. Then I'm going to put the little brass ground plate, then flat washer, lock washer, and a nut, V-nut. There's only one. And that's in place, it's not tightened down. Now I'm going to repeat the process for the second one, the right side. It's the same exact setup, same exact hardware as the previous one. In terms of tightening these up, there's really, again, it's not complicated. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get back behind the bike and I'm going to sight forward to make sure these are straight. And do the same from the front. Then I'll simply take the 17mm wrench and snug them up. Now I'm not going to over tighten these at this point. When I put the handlebars on, which will not be now, I'll put the handlebars on quite a bit later. Primarily because I don't want to be dodging them as I'm working around the bike. Otherwise I'm going to have these big handlebars sticking out both sides, and it's real easy to run into them with your forehead, bump your head on them, jockey the bike around in the process. So I'm going to snug these up, but I'm not going to tighten them up until I get the handlebars on, because I might have to finesse things a little bit once I get the handlebars on at another time. So for now, I'm just going to snug these up just a little bit. There, so we got the handlebar clamps done. Now we're going to go ahead and attach a retracting spring for the center stand. This is all that's involved in the retracting mechanism for the center stand right here. The weight of the bike right now is biased backwards, so it is putting weight on the center stand. I did that intentionally because I didn't want it to move around. So what I'm going to do now in order to install this, and it's very simple to do, is I'm going to use that red motorcycle jack, and I'm going to bring the rear or center of the bike up like this, so I can take the weight off that center stand. I'll need to swing it up to attach the hardware. Take the tension off the straps so that the bike can move. Bring it up just enough so that I can move this center stand freely. Like that. I'll put it back in the original position once I have the center stand retracting spring and arm attached. First thing I'm going to do is take a piece of masking tape here and put it over the center of the mounting boss for the center stand, because I don't want to damage the paint in case I slip in this process. I'm going to bend it, the tip of the tape over, create a little handle, and I'm just going to put it something like that so that I can get a hold of it later on, probably with pliers, and remove it. I'm also going to take this piece of wire. This is, I think, 12 gauge Romax. I stripped the outer color sheath off, of course, outer cover. And I'm going to put this through here temporarily and bend it like that, because when I put this together and there's tension on that spring, this center stand is going to want to do this if I take the weight off. And normally I believe the mufflers, which mount on these ears on each side, are the stop for the center stand, but since there's no muffler there right now, there's nothing to stop that center stand from swinging up really in an uncontrolled fashion. So that's just temporary. I can remove that and cut that off later on. In terms of the retracting arm itself, again, there's really not much to it. These are new parts, so I take that back. This is a new part, the arm. The spring is the original that I replated. I got this off of eBay. It's no longer available from Yamaha. But the way this goes together is real simple. Take the spring and you hook it through the hole, the smaller of the two holes. This one's oblong, I think, as you can see. That fits over the pin right here on the center stand. So it'll fit something like that. So just hook the spring like that, and then up inside of the frame here is a tab. Let me see if I can get you a better shot of that. Up underneath the frame here, there's a tab welded in at the factory that's got a hole in it that this part of the spring actually fits into. I'm going to go ahead and remove this stop wire for now. All you really need to do is to hook this one end of the spring into the hole in the tab and bring the center stand all the way up till you can slip it over that mounting boss right here. And there you can see how it works. And the reason for the tape is just in case something slipped. I didn't want to damage the finish or the paint on the center stand, but that's the way it retracts. So there you can see the action of that center stand. And again, I think the mufflers sit in here something like this and act as a stop for the center stand. And since the mufflers aren't there right now, to act as a stop, I'm just going to put this piece of wire through. You could use all thread. Anything really would work. This is only temporary, so that if I lose control of something and this snaps up, it's going to stop like that. Now I'm going to go ahead and lower the bike back down in its original position to keep weight on that center stand. Tighten my straps. That's just to keep the bike from moving around. Make sure there's just a touch of pressure against this motorcycle lift, and everything's back together. So now we've got the center stand, hardware attached. This tape underneath here now can come out. And we've got the hardware assembled.